Hello, I'm CJ Wellerman. Please make sure you subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. 2 years ago, the world's leading authority on genocide issued an unambiguous warning when he said the preparation for genocide in India is well underway, due to the actions and hateful rhetoric of the Hindu nationalist government. Well, that warning has now expired, because the horrific events taking place all across India during the past 2 weeks makes it evidently clear that a genocide has now begun, one that threatens the lives of more than 200 million Muslims. Now I want you to get your head around this number, 200 million people, because no country anywhere, anytime has ever tried to systematically exterminate 200 million of its own citizens. We are talking about the equivalent of 25 Holocausts. Now I'm going to do my very best to control my anger here, because I feel nothing but disgust and contempt when I see these individuals here. The so-called leaders of the Muslim world, who are willfully and deliberately turning a blind eye to the annihilation of Muslims in India. These cowards and scoundrels have not uttered a single word about what constitutes the largest scale mass murder of a religious minority since the Holocaust. Mostly because this genocide enjoys the full backing of their dear friend, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has bought the love and affection of Arab Gulf regimes by handing out one sweetheart trade deal after another. I mean, let's not forget that the United Arab Emirates awarded this Hindutva thug its highest civilian award not long after Modi encouraged RSS and other Hindu nationalist goons to mass murder 2,000 Muslims in Gujarat, while he was Chief Minister of the Indian state. And in all this time, only 2 Muslim leaders have condemned Modi and his hateful ideology: Turkey's President Recep Erdogan and former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, who is now in jail on bogus charges because he dared to stand up to the United States military.
The minister gave a statement that in RSS camps, terrorists are being trained. And these terrorists butchered 2,000 Muslims and 150,000 Muslims were made homeless.
Meanwhile, the current leaders of the Muslim world watch on in silence as Muslims in India are mass murdered and gang raped in broad daylight, while their mosque and holy books are destroyed and desecrated. Anti-Muslim pogroms are being carried out across the country and on a near weekly basis. This chart here shows only a single 7-day period of murder, rape and terror that occurred last week, while this chart here lists known attacks against Muslims that occurred during the Islamic holiday of Eid in June. How can any Muslim in India feel safe from harm today, particularly when many of these attacks take place either in the presence of police or with the participation from the police? But leaders of the Muslim world remain deaf, dumb and mute to this week-on-week violence which is escalating daily. I mean, did the governments of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt or Iran say anything when this mosque was firebombed by Hindu extremists last week? Nope, not a word. Or what about when this Indian railway officer hunted Muslims aboard a train in Jaipur, shooting dead 3 innocent Muslim passengers while shouting, "Vote for Modi"? Nope, total silence from the Muslim world again. They should listen to the great Indian novelist Arundhati Roy, who said this about the killer.
You have a situation where a railway protection force officer is walking down bogies, shooting Muslims and saying you must vote for Modi. And it's a mistake to think this person is mad, this person is sane, this person is just absorbing all the propaganda day and night that's coming out at him.
It's important to acknowledge that each one of his Muslim victims led meaningful lives and families. One of those killed was the imam at his local mosque in Pune.
तो उसने बताया कि सब कुछ ठीक है यहाँ पे, पुलिस वाले हैं यहाँ पे मौजूद। तकरीबन 12:30 से 12:30 के बीच में ये हादसा हुआ उनके साथ। कुछ गुंडों ने आकर के, या दहशतगर्द कह लीजिए, उन्होंने आकर के मेरे भाई पे हमला करके और उनको शहीद कर दिया.
But before we go on, we urgently need your help to counter injustices in the Muslim world, and we can't continue this effort without you. So please consider supporting my journalism at patreon.com/CJ Wellerman. Our program is made possible only because of the support we receive from our wonderful patrons. Please join them in helping me bring their stories to a wider audience. Thank you. Now back to our show. The attacks we have covered here don't even scratch the surface. We just don't have the time to cover every single one of them. But it's totally unacceptable that Muslim leaders said nothing and did nothing after Indian government-backed Hindu extremists attacked this mosque in Gurugram last week and murdered its 19-year-old deputy imam. And nor did MBZ, MBS, CC and Co. say anything when the Indian government bulldozed more than 300 Muslim-owned homes in Haryana last week, leaving hundreds of Muslim families homeless and on the streets. Instead, they turn a blind eye to their suffering, offering only a cold heart to this Muslim woman who stands over the ruins of her demolished home, which have been bulldozed by the Indian regime as a form of terror and collective punishment. And while all of this is going on, Muslim-owned businesses are not only being boycotted by the Hindu majority, but also Hindu extremists are setting fire to Muslim-owned shops, hotels and restaurants right across the country. The goal being to starve Muslims to death. This is exactly what Nazis did to the Jews in the years leading up to the Holocaust. In the 1930s, German mobs walked around towns, escorted by police, calling for a full economic boycott of Jewish citizens and action against foreigners who criticized the government, including US and British journalists. I mean, does this ring any alarm bells? My Twitter account and this YouTube channel has been banned in India by the Modi regime because I expose its human rights abuses against Muslims. So mark my words, we are less than a year away from a full-scale Muslim Holocaust. And what's happening to Muslims in India today is the exact same thing that was happening to Jews in 1940, the year before the Nazis enacted their final solution. But whereas the Western world mobilized its forces to crush Nazism and save the Jewish people, the Muslim world and Western world can't even raise their voice for Muslims in India. Now, I want you to imagine you're a Muslim living in India at the moment. I want you to imagine what they must now endure on a daily basis, as they are confronted by armed street gangs, lynch mobs and Hindu for radicalized cops who act no different to Hitler's SS. But when you think about that, I want you to watch a series of speeches that were given by right-wing Hindu leaders during the past 7 days. In each of these clips you're about to see, the speakers are calling on Hindus to arm themselves with guns and swords to mass murder Muslim men, women and children. When I watch these speeches and see these acts of mass violence, all I can think about is the total absence of courage from the Muslim world to speak out on behalf of Muslims in India. After all, the governments of Muslim countries had no difficulty in condemning this racist lunatic who set fire to the Quran in Sweden. Some even called for a boycott against Swedish-made products. But where are the calls to boycott India? And look, I don't mean to be flippant here, and nor do I intend to make light of acts desecrate holy books. But at the end of the day, books are replaceable, humans are not. I mean, the Kuwaiti government responded to the Quran burning protests in Sweden by producing 100,000 more copies of the holy book. But needless to say, it's impossible to replace the lives of murdered Muslims. The failure of Muslim countries to speak out against the persecution and genocide of Muslims in India and Kashmir is the ultimate betrayal of Muslims and Islam, period. And to that end, MBS, MBZ, CC et al. Now have Indian and Kashmiri Muslim blood on their hands, because silence is complicity. Wait, these governments are not even silent. They are making deals with Modi on territory where Muslims are being slaughtered. Which is why we must speak out as loud and often as we can for persecuted Muslim minorities. Our show will always remain committed to that. Anyway, that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we kindly ask you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWerleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow this show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.